As fans, we often toss around all-encompassing labels to describe athletes. Whether positive or negative, we tend to run with the player's public perception as facts set in stone, often forgetting exactly how they got there. These perceptions, either earned or not, don't just happen overnight though. Players and coaches go through a journey of events before we hit them with the label that can stick even after they retire. In the case of Greg Oden, he's consistently labeled as one of the biggest busts in the history of the NBA. It's a narrative that even Oden himself has come to accept. Athletes typically fit this description when they fail to meet a certain level of expectations, but Oden's case is unique. To fully understand why Oden is perceived this way, we have to remember his extreme potential, how the NBA operated before he was drafted, and distinguish why not all busts are the same. It's impossible to reach this level of notoriety that Oden has without first gaining hype. If it weren't for an NBA rule change, Oden would have been drafted #1 overall fresh out of high school. Scouts regarded the towering center out of Indianapolis with an extensive list of accolades as the most dominant big man to enter college in a generation. It's high praise for such a young talent, but Oden reinforced the claim. After just 4 games with the Ohio State Buckeyes, Oden was being compared to NBA greats. Journalists saw Oden as someone already fit for the pros. Standing at 7 feet tall, Oden had unreal agility and quickness for someone that large. As a defender, his excellent instinctive timing allowed him to swat balls into the crowd nightly and rebound at a superb level. On offense, Oden was extremely efficient around the rim and bodied opponents in the paint. He could get a basket whenever he pleased, but often deferred to his teammates, keeping them involved. His selflessness led ESPN analyst Fran Fraschilla to say he was Bill Russell-like. Yes, Bill Russell, the 11-time NBA champion whose name Fraschilla didn't toss around lightly. Oden was simply that good. Oden had a marvelous freshman season, leading his team to an NCAA Finals appearance where the Buckeyes lost despite a monster performance from him. Making opponents look like children all season is how you put yourself in the conversation for the first overall draft pick ahead of National Player of the Year Kevin Durant. It wasn't a shock to anyone, even Durant, who said he'd never seen anyone with the type of skill set that Oden possessed. Of course, the players themselves don't choose where they're drafted, and after having only a 5.3% chance of winning the prize pick in 2007, the Portland Trail Blazers faced a tough dilemma. Blazers fans had lived through the disastrous outcome of the organization's top picks in the past, especially with big men who struggled with injuries. While becoming a legend in Portland, Bill Walton struggled with lingering foot problems throughout his career. In 1984, the Blazers notoriously selected Sam Bowie, one spot before famed Space Jam actor Michael Jordan. In the case of this particular large fella though, Oden didn't have a severe injury history. Even when he did have an issue with his wrist in college, scouts believed the injury was a blessing in disguise. Knee issues typically plague big men, but if Oden were to be the guy for the Blazers, Portland GM Kevin Pritchard did his due diligence and found that Oden's test results were pristine. To the delight of the Blazers fans who packed out the Rose Garden chanting, "We want Oden" during the draft, Portland got their guy. The status of being selected #1 overall of course comes with immense pressure, but franchise-altering big men don't grow on trees. And in a league where titles were won by teams who employ commanding large fellas, Portland was prepared to groom Oden as the next dude. The organization felt that Oden met the team's needs over Durant's potential. Portland already had 2 young promising prospects in LaMarcus Aldridge and Brandon Roy, and mixing in Oden's unique skill set was expected to bolster their roster. Oden strived to win a championship with Portland, but quickly learned you have to take things a step at a time. After fouling out in his Summer League debut and following it up by doing it again in his second outing, Oden remembered some much-needed advice from David Robinson on how to navigate the difficulties of the NBA. The former championship center told Oden that patience was necessary. But there's a drastic difference in learning the patience it takes to transition to the NBA versus not being able to play at all. Oden experienced some swelling in his right knee during training camp. He went in for an exploratory procedure that discovered a defect in the cartilage of his knee, which required microfracture surgery. The operation abruptly ended Oden's highly anticipated rookie season before it began. Oden said he felt a sharp pain while on vacation a month before the surgery, but kept it to himself because he didn't think it was anything major and didn't want to make any excuses so early in his career. Following the surgery, Oden apologized profusely to Pritchard for being hurt, only reassuring the GM of his character and dedication to the organization. Many highly touted rookies missed their first season for various reasons, but Oden was the first to ever miss an entire year due to an injury. It was unprecedented. Oden sat and watched the 07-08 Blazers finish the season on the brink of the playoffs and might have had a chance at making it had he played. All Oden could do was focus on getting stronger through his rehab, and after spending a whole year grinding, he was ready to make his debut the ensuing season. At long last, Oden had the opportunity to prove his worth of a #1 pick, and it came against the defending Western Conference champion Los Angeles Lakers. But what was supposed to be a celebratory debut ended in disaster. Oden turned in an uninspiring performance that was sadly cut short because of a foot injury. Getting hurt in his first ever NBA game, on top of missing a season, only prompted more concern from the media. When he returned after missing 2 weeks, Oden played disjointed and inconsistent at times, but started to flash his potential through impressive outings. Despite dropping breakout performances, the jury was still out on his play. Even rapper Lil Wayne said he felt like Oden had something to prove before he escaped bust territory. Weezy F Baby had spoken, and the F stood for fraud. While all the claims on Oden's talent might have been premature, it didn't help that he added more fuel to the fire. One game before the All-Star break where Oden was set to showcase his talents in the Rising Stars game, he suffered another injury, this time to his left knee. Weighed down by injuries and expectations, the typically joyful Oden appeared defeated. He admitted that he hadn't fully recovered from his first knee surgery, and although he would miss time again, he thought it would be beneficial to step away from basketball for a moment. For a player that the media was ready to give up on so quickly, taking time to clear his mind seemed to do wonders for Oden, because he returned with newfound confidence. As he worked his way back into the lineup, his numbers weren't impressive, but he was clearly improving as a player, looking more comfortable each game, even starting to smile again. Flashing a toothy grin may not seem like a big deal, but Oden had been tough on himself all season and was beginning to play like he didn't seem concerned about how his knee would respond. The dude was finally feeling good and excited to hit the court. The Blazers went on to lose against the Houston Rockets in the first round of the playoffs, with Oden struggling in the series against Yao Ming, but it only seemed to motivate him. While Oden didn't finish with the rookie season he envisioned, he got to work immediately in the offseason. Oden slimmed down and focused on different parts of his game in an effort to take that next step forward. He was beginning to show true glimpses of his potential. There's often a moment in a player's career that you can identify as a turning point of how we stamp them in history. The guy that Portland passed on in 1984 has a ton of them to choose from, but there's no denying he's known as the GOAT. Oden had his moment too, but after it happened, he would no longer have the chance to escape the bust label that followed him since he entered the league. On December 5th, 2009, in the first quarter of a matchup against the Rockets, Oden collided with Aaron Brooks and dropped to the floor, clutching his left knee. The Rose Garden fell silent as the fans watched their future franchise star grimace in pain, holding the same knee he injured 10 months ago. After 21 games on the season, Oden fractured his patella and needed another season-ending surgery. The 7-foot gentle giant felt like he disappointed his teammates once again and apologized once he received his diagnosis. Despite Oden's confidence that he'd return, the sad reality was he'd never suit up for Portland again. Over the next few years, Oden suffered a number of setbacks leading to even more surgeries. The Blazers released him in 2012. Going from a top pick with mighty expectations to being shelved for most of your career altered how we perceived Oden coming into the NBA. When Oden landed in Portland, fans were thrilled about the potential trio of Oden, Roy, and Aldridge, proclaiming the three would lead the franchise to another championship. The thought wasn't far-fetched. In the 62 games that the gifted trio played in together, the team finished with an impressive 52-10 record. Had they stayed healthy, the Blazers could have been a legit title contender. But during 5 years in Portland, Oden played a total of 82 games. While many speculated that Oden would retire after Portland released him, he was focused on getting healthy and didn't care how the injuries affected his legacy. He just wanted to hoop. Oden got that second chance, joining the Miami Heat after taking a year off to regroup. But he was never able to establish himself as a consistent rotation player and only appeared in what would be the final 23 games of his NBA career. Throughout all the injury-riddled years, journalists feverishly compared Oden's draft day to Portland's dreadful past selection of Sam Bowie over MJ. Media members claimed that Portland was cursed. People were talking about Oden more as an idea than an actual individual. The organization again valued need over potential talent, and feelings on the Oden pick were only amplified by Durant continuing to grow into one of the greatest players in the history of the NBA. But is it fair to be considered a bust if you never had the chance to perform? Durant didn't think so, and rejected anyone calling Oden a bust, saying it's nonsense. KD argued that Oden never got the chance to prove himself, seeing Oden more as a human being who didn't get a fair shot rather than just a commodity to a team. It's a rare way to think considering how highly draft picks are valued, but life is a little deeper than basketball. On the outside, it appeared that Oden had fully come to terms with becoming the poster boy for injury-prone prospects. But on the inside, Oden battled his own demons. Through all the setbacks, Oden transformed from an exuberant guy with a shining smile to an introvert rarely giving insight into his life. It wasn't until after Portland released him that Oden fully opened up in a candid interview with his friend and former Buckeye teammate Mark Titus. Oden truly valued his privacy, and many people weren't aware that he had entered the league with a dark cloud already hanging over him. At Ohio State, Oden's childhood friend died in a car accident that left Oden shattered. He went down a destructive path of drinking and doing things he admitted he shouldn't be doing. The added news of his first knee surgery certainly didn't help. Oden longed for a veteran presence in Portland for support on navigating the NBA lifestyle, but felt like he was all alone. Even when he was healthy, Oden used drinking to celebrate the highs and forget the lows. Oden managed to pull himself out of his rut and quit drinking in the offseason after his true rookie year, but then that happened. A month later, nude photos of Oden leaked online, leaving him so devastated that he locked himself in his home for days and feared showing his face in public. Oden turned to a sports psychologist for help, and just as he was making strides both mentally and physically, the Blazers hired the same psychologist before the new season began, leaving Oden suspicious of the team's true intentions. Oden didn't only lose trust in the organization, but it impacted his health. When the start of the 2010-11 season neared, Oden believed he was making progress, but didn't think his body was ready to practice at full speed. Feeling guilty that he missed so much time during his first 3 seasons, Oden admitted to rushing back to practice, which wasn't a great plan. Fast forward through another year of rehab, and Oden suffered another setback after again feeling like he was forced to return to the court before he was ready. Oden didn't want to put the blame fully on Portland's medical staff, but it's not the best look for a franchise that was rumored to be one of the league's worst, while simultaneously poorly handling the rehab of another franchise star. Look, none of this is to make excuses for Oden. People handle death in different ways, and Oden used drinking as a coping mechanism to ease the pain of losing his childhood friend. He made his decisions. It's just tough not to wonder if things could have gone differently if he landed with another team and gotten the guidance he desperately searched for, or even someone to tell him to rest until he was fully healthy. While Oden was very aware of all the claims calling him a bust and the never-ending comparison to Durant, he never felt sorry for himself. What bothered Oden the most was never getting the real opportunity to prove his worth. It hurt him so much because he felt that if he had gotten that shot, he would have been an all-star as well. And hey, maybe that's just Oden believing in himself. But in his last 7 games before the injury that finished his Blazers career, Oden was dropping impressive stat lines on limited minutes, including a 20-rebound performance. Numbers don't lie. So while it's easy to call Oden the biggest bust in the history of the NBA, consider the factors at play for the others that bear that claim. Whether it's being considered a bust because of poor play, not panning out to the potential of a high draft pick, or being classified as uncoachable, Oden never got his real opportunity to prove us wrong. Holy shit. Thank y'all so much for watching the first episode of our new series, Prism. We're gonna drop a new episode every week, and trust me, you don't want to miss what's coming next. In the meantime, don't forget to like and subscribe, and keep on coming back for more fire content. Peace.